today after the fiery train derailment in Ohio and the controlled release. So there was a decision to dump all these chemicals into a trench and then set them.
You hear something like that and you don't even understand exactly what that threat means, where it's coming from, when it will happen. You just grab the people that you love and you run. My name's Jessica Helpy. I am 35 years old and I lived in East Palestine, Ohio. We went down to see what all of the hustle and bustle was about, and we saw it was like almost a mile long, a wall of fire. I've never seen anything that big. It was honestly intimidating to see, even though, you know, it was like a spectacle and everybody was watching. Once I heard that, you know, that they may possibly evacuate people because they weren't sure of what was on the train, I immediately panicked because my son was now on the other side of this wall of fire from me. And that, as a mother, was really scary for me. Townwide, that there was a suggested evacuation, and at that point I grabbed my youngest son, we hopped in the car, and we had to drive around the fire, which was quite feasible if you drove to the other side of town over a bridge. But getting around the fire to get to my son was a different story, because once we crossed over the tracks and had come back over, they had the streets blocked off. There were fire trucks, EMS, you know, all the emergency vehicles. And so I luckily ran into a police officer that I've known my whole life who allowed me to go through the barricades to go get my son. At which point we evacuated the town of East Palestine because we were unsure of what was even happening. It's my understanding that the sheriffs were able to, after 3 rounds of evacuation, they were, you know, beating on people's windows, beating on, you know, doors, like doing anything they could to make sure that everyone left, because if you were within the 1 mile zone, you faced an extreme risk of fatality. Once they lifted the evacuation order, when I initially came home, the whole town still smelled just like the chemicals the very first day that it was burning. It was so strong that when I went to town, which was, I believe it was Tuesday, they assured us that the school was safe. They have their own filtration system. They're testing air and surfaces. So I allowed my kids to go to school on Tuesday.
People say that the air is clean. I would like to believe that that's true. I also have been here for all of 3 hours and it doesn't smell great to me. I can't imagine being a member of this community, seeing dead fish, dead worms, dead crawdads in the community that you live in, where your children play in that creek. I took a stick and I stuck it in the bed of the creek and pulled it along, and chemical bubbled out of the ground.
Contaminants from derailed cars spilled into some waterways and were toxic to about 3,500 fish. Ohio Department of Health encouraging people to use bottled water.
Stay here. Would you drink that water? Would you be affiliated with this? Would you bathe your kids when it's bubbling up and looking like an oil slick?
Outside of the school for roughly an hour in the open air, and by the time I left town, my head hurt so bad, like in my face, like a really weird headache that I can't really like even describe. But it was so bad that I was in tears. and it made me feel dizzy to the point that I had to shower sitting down because I was afraid I was going to pass out and hurt myself when I fell. So, you know, I had the dizziness, my throat was sore. I actually had a rash that night after I got out of the shower. I noticed that I had a rash up my arms that wasn't there before I had gone to town. And the fact that they're telling people that their homes are safe, and I'm coming out with visible reactions to whatever is in the air, on the fabrics, whatever's in my home, is just, I can't believe it. A lot of people in town are trying to cling to normality. Let's get back to normal because, you know, it's a great community. It is a strong, tight-knit community. It is a community of hardworking people, but not everybody has the financial resources to leave a home they're paying a mortgage on, uproot their life and leave everything behind and start all over again. With this happening, you know, values of homes are going to plummet. We're seeing, like I said, dead wildlife. We can still, on the 17th of February, I can still smell the chemicals in the air. Every morning, the chemicals are so strong, you would think it was the first day again. And we're being reassured that it's okay. So people are trying to cling to that normalcy and get back to life because a lot of them don't have the option to leave. I'm semi-fortunate in that I'm a renter. So, you know, I don't have the financial obligation of a mortgage for a home that won't ever sell. But I've worked really, really hard to rebuild my life. And, you know, for me to go from, you know, we left because of a house fire. Our things were contaminated with smoke. You know, I was so grateful to have my kids and make sure that they were safe and everything. Everybody was fine. But to come and now your town is on fire, it's just like, this could happen anywhere. It happened in East Palestine. It's really hard, you know, that's my family. But what do you do? We're gonna go back down to Kentucky and stay temporarily with my uncle. I was starting to establish myself as, you know, an interior and exterior home painter, and I was starting to really build a great reputation for myself. So unfortunately, you know, my business plans for spring and summer are gone now because people are worried about selling their homes and cleaning chemicals off of their homes. They can't afford new paint jobs on their homes after a catastrophe of this nature. So I'm going to take my kids and we're going to bunk with my uncle until I can save up enough money to start over again.